Welcome back to another episode of Conversations Amplified with myself, Aditya Shekhar. We all have certain definitions of the word hero, and with that, certain role models we look up to. For me, heroes are those who protect our country with honor and make us feel safer at home every single day. On today's show, I have an individual who was commissioned into the 8th Battalion of the Kumaon Regiment of the Indian Army on the 9th of February 1964 as a 20-year-old and went on to serve the Army for 38 years, during which he rose to the rank of Lieutenant General. Under his command, Operation Sadbhavana, an ambitious plan to bring peace to Ladakh through goodwill for concern for human development, was launched. The success of Operation Sadbhavana redefined the role of the armed forces as one of war prevention rather than winning wars. He is a recipient of the prestigious Param Seva medal as well as the Vishisht Seva medal. He's someone who believes and epitomizes the fact that greater energy and greater passion is more extraordinary than greater genius. It's an absolute honor to have Lieutenant General Arjun Ray on the show today. Thank you for your time, sir, and it's a pleasure to talk to you.
Very good morning, Aditya, and thank you very much for your brief introduction about me and my background in the military. 38 years in the military, and now 23 years in international baccalaureate education. I am all set to have a very robust conversation with you on my experiences and what I think how the future is going to unfold itself.
Yeah, sure. General Ray, you're a big believer in having a purpose in life. Was serving the Indian Army always your purpose right from your younger days?
Basically, I was, I think, about 9 years old or 8 years old in Jaipur, and I was studying in St. Xavier's. Very close to our house was a big wide road, and a lot of military convoys used to go that road because Jaipur was a military station also. And whenever I had the opportunity, I would run up from my house, stand on the road, and salute all the soldiers and vehicles going past. Ever since then, I wanted to join the army because my belief then was, and I don't think it is right for me to say that that is the only way, that the best way to serve your country is to join the army or the navy or the air force. And because I believe that a lot of risk taking is involved there, and more than that, your life is at stake. See, in business you can lose money, but you may not lose your life. But in the army, particularly in the army, navy, and air force, you're always playing with life, and that was like a shot of adrenaline in me, excited me over there, and said, Arjun Ray, this is where you should. And ever since I was in grade 3 or grade 4, I made up my mind that I would join the army, and I fulfilled that wish of mine.
Right. And General Ray, the Indian Army is known for inculcating discipline. It's known for making men into boys into men, right? Is that where you learned at a very early age the meaning of discipline, the meaning of hard work, and is that where the foundations or the roots that have been inculcated in you today really built up?
See, there are two forms of discipline, Aditya. One is which is internalized, that is self-discipline, and the other is external discipline, that is superimposed upon you. Now, all the militaries of the world are known for externally planting their discipline concepts on soldiers and officers over there. That means you are supposed to adhere to certain rituals, certain formats in dress, in behavior, in training, in your professional conduct over there, which is, I think, a good thing. But more important than that, I feel, is the discipline which you as a soldier impose upon yourself. And I think that is and that also under conditions where your life and limbs may be at stake. So the military is one profession where it helps you not only to externalize your concept or behavior or discipline, but to internalize it as well. And therefore, I'm very fortunate that I did put in the long service in the military, to various conflict areas also, and it made me more self-aware. It made me more conscious of who I am, and that I have a larger role to play in life and not just to be in uniform. So I think yes, self-discipline is more important, and the military helps you to become self-reliant and self-disciplined.
Absolutely. And generally talking about leadership, when I remember coming into Indus as a young kid, and right from day one being taught the importance of leadership, being taught the core values of being a good leader. When you took over various roles in the Indian Army, rising through the ranks and becoming Lieutenant General, what was that experience like in terms of leading men? In terms of, did you feel a greater sense of responsibility when you were tasked with leading various battalions and men under your command?
I think that's a very good question. It's a very good question. When I look back to my military career and now in my educational career as well, I would say that while I was in the military over there, I had exposure to different types of experiences. And this is something which the industry must also understand. I had experience of counterinsurgency, of armored warfare, high altitude and snow warfare, desert warfare. I served in the infantry in 8th Command for 14 years. The other years I served in armored formations, commanding armored formations as a mechanized infantry officer. So I understood the combined arms concept as to how Navy, Air Force and Army must collaborate with each other to achieve our strategic goals over there. It gave me an opportunity to learn from a lot of very successful military commanders I served under, my bosses. From each one, I learned a lot. I observed them very, very closely. This is something which I feel is lacking in our leadership model today. Mentoring may not be the right word. If you find a mentor, you'll be very lucky. I would say that you must watch the great masters play. If I'm a great tennis player, I aspire to be a great tennis player, then I must watch these great masters like Nadal or Djokovic, how they play, how they react to the audience over there, how they respond to failure or setbacks in their games over there. I must observe them very, very closely. So over my 38 years of experience, I served under various commanders, military commanders, and I learned from each one of them. Even some of them who are not so good, even they give you good lessons on why you should not do that. So I had a wide experience of all these people there. Then while I was in the infantry, as a young captain, very young captain and lieutenant there, I spent my annual leave of 2 months trekking and living with soldiers from the Kumaon regiment, from wherever they were recruited in the Kumaon Hills. Now Uttarakhand, that is Garhwal and Kumaon, Uttarakhand over there. And therefore, when I look back to that experience of mine, what is very, very important is another example I'd like to give to you from music. Let's take, for example, Bernstein, Leonard Bernstein, possibly the greatest music composer and conductor of the 20th century, on whom this Oscar-nominated film Maestro is based upon. Now, it's very, very important for a successful music conductor not only to compose music, he must have knowledge of those 30 or 40 instruments that are in the orchestra, And he must have deep knowledge of the musicians who are playing those instruments. So in this fast, heady world that we live in over there, we must find time to spend with the people we are responsible for. I think that is a very, very, if you don't understand the people over there, you will not understand your job and you will not understand what expectations are from you. So therefore, I had that great advantage that I spent a lot of my time, and I wrote a small novella or a book about those treks of mine, and I titled that book as based on a poem by William Blake. Great things are done when men and mountains meet. This is not done by jostling in the street. So, in today's context, it would be that great things are done when leaders spend time with the people they are leading. Because leadership is experiential. It cannot be taught in a classroom. It cannot be taught by just reading books and by listening to lectures there. It is experiential. Values and leadership are experiential there. And it is the people you are serving in your organization, they make that thing happen there. They are the experiential aspect of leadership. Have you got my point, Aditya, there?
Absolutely.
So, varied experiences of people, of other leaders, good leaders, not so good leaders, at times indifferent leaders, that one learns a lot from observing them in action. How does he take a decision? How does he take a decision when there is no information available? Or there is too much of information or too little information? Under VUCA condition, how does this man or woman take a decision? Analyze it, discuss with them. And I always used to go back to my bosses and say, sir, this particular talk you gave or this particular decision you took over there, what was the thought process behind it? How did you go about it? I'm not saying whether he was right or wrong. I wanted to understand his thought process. So I think this is a form of experiential leadership development I think should be applied in industry, in government, in politics, in international relations, everywhere.
Absolutely. And General, you mentioned the boots on the ground approach and the experiential leadership. You look at the Indian Army, and that's something I've always been very inspired by. You hear stories of, majors and colonels fighting with their troops on the ground, leading them into war, into battle. And on the other hand, like you said, you have the corporate world. You have people who become CEOs and they expect people to work 6 days a week. For them, it's the harder you work, the more results you get out of your men. The better the top line. That's leadership to them, right? The more they extract from their company. Do you feel the word leadership, or it gets taken for granted at times and is just thrown around rather than people actually being and epitomizing a true leader, like you mentioned?
There are a lot of something like about 175 definitions of leadership.
Right.
And I would say that at least 500,000 books in history have been written about leadership. Most of the literature which has been generated in leadership has not been written by leaders. It's been written by managers, by scholars, by professors, by researchers. Leadership is something which I would say is symbolized by the power of vision. A manager does not have a vision. A leader has a vision and he gives that vision to the managers, to the people there. So the first, I think, criteria to be a leader is to have a vision, a compelling vision. And sharing that compelling vision continuously with the people he is responsible for, or she is responsible for. to interpreting that vision. What is expected? For example, what do we mean in, say, for example, in Indus, is discipline, respect, love? What do they mean? And how do you translate that vision into the classroom? How do you translate that vision in your own life? This is, I think, is the primary role of a vision. Because throughout history, men and women walk down the road armed with nothing but their vision. And this is something which is in short supply in our world today at all levels. We have no vision. The second big characteristic of a leader is to have a strategic mindset, because I learned from the military that you can win all the tactical battles, but you can lose the war. This is what happened in Vietnam, what happened in Afghanistan, and this is what is happening in many parts of the world today. Therefore, it is very, very important for us to understand that leaders think ahead. They are thinking not days ahead, they are thinking years ahead, decades ahead of the implications of the actions they are taking today. And I think this is a very, very important aspect there. And I think the third very important aspect of a leader is his character. I'm always reminded of what Oscar Wilde used to say, that if you have character, nothing else matters. If you don't have character, nothing else matters. Yeah. Therefore, I feel that education today, unfortunately, is focusing too much on reading, writing, and arithmetic, rote memorization, passing examinations, getting 100 out of 100. Education needs to more practice, more focus on making children human. If you are not human, you are not a good leader, you are not a good person. And therefore, feel that character, which will mean ethical decision making, it will mean integrity, it will mean truth, it will mean trust. All these things become very, very important. They will outweigh everything else. I feel that average guy with a high character quotient will be far more successful in leading himself and his organization than a guy who is a whiz kid but lacks character and integrity. Therefore, in my experience, I have seen that most people who think can't act, and those who act cannot think. So you need a blend of both as a leader. And the third very important aspect of a leader is one's ability to lead oneself first, and then others. If you cannot lead yourself first, when you are not being watched, particularly, you cannot lead other people. So these are the three aspects of leadership, I think, need to be imbibed in our life, at home, in the community, wherever we are over there.
Right.
This is the difference.
Right. General, you mentioned having a vision, thinking far ahead, thinking a few years ahead, and having character. Another thing that's always fascinated me about the Indian Army is we've never been aggressors in any of the wars that we participated in, but we still come out on top. We've still won all of the wars, right? What makes the Indian Army so special? Because sitting at home and having no experience, I can just, think 100 things that, okay, the army did this, the army did that. But in your experience, why is the Indian Army so special, and what makes us the force that we are today?
I think what is special about the Indian Army, and is also special about I think again the army is a very narrow term. We will let us say we call it the military, which includes the aviation, it includes the army, and now even the interplanetary forces and commands are coming up over there. I think we need to understand that in today's context, particularly, I would like you to keep in mind two things. Political power. This is what Mao Zedong said in 1927. 27. That political power comes out of the barrel of a gun. It never did. Countries need to understand that political power does not come out of the barrel of a gun. Therefore, when we talk of a strategic matrix, there will be economics, there will be international relations, there will be diplomacy. There are so many other dynamics which are going to influence the conflict over there. Therefore, I remember something from the Gita, from the Mahabharata really. And this was when I was a young military officer. A German general spoke to me on this. He was then, he had fought in World War II as a tank commander, General Wettler, I remember his name. And he said the aim of war is not to kill. Although some killing may be necessary. Some badmashes, naughty guys have to be dealt with severely. But that is not the objective. Destruction cannot be the objective of war. Unfortunately, von Clausewitz, who was the architect of World War I, architect of World War II to a large extent, and today, even now as I speak to you, that the aim of war is to destroy. It cannot be to destroy, it is to prevent destruction from happening. Aim of the military is to prevent war. I think that is the important aspect which the world has got to understand. It's like a threat in being, not to be used. And this is why when we launched Sadbhavana and Ladakh to win over communities into the mainstream there, I had all the military power at my disposal, but I decided not to use it. It was there. Everybody knew I had it, but I did not use it. And that enhanced my credibility, that despite having all this power, I did not use it. I used soft power to achieve my objectives. So I think we have moved away from hard power to the age of soft power. Therefore, the role of the military is not to kill. It is not to win war. It is to prevent war. It is to deter war. I think that is something which we need to understand, and many of those who understand, they need to practice it also.
Right.
The ultimate goal of any vision of war is peace. If after the war is over there is no peace and there is more conflict and more destruction over there, then we have failed in our purpose completely there. And you see, history is replete with this example, even as I speak to you today. We have no clarity on the end objective. Whether it is a relationship between person A and person B, whether it is a business relationship, those who have a vision are able to see far, far ahead. And in that vision, say from the industry's perspective, the company must make profit, and the people, the citizens, the people who are using your products, they must also be happy. The aim of business cannot be to make money, although making money is important. The aim of business should be to plow back as much as possible for the well-being of the community. See, that is the way I would translate a military objective into a business strategy.
Right. General, if I can take you back to Operation Sadbhavana, like you mentioned, India was still fresh from the wounds of the Kargil War. There probably would have been a thought that, an eye for an eye, they hit us first, let's hit them back. And there was probably, the whole let's get back what is ours and, we've been wrong school of thought. But at such a time, you decided that, the way to actually promote or win over the locals in Ladakh, for example, was to build schools, empower women, and start Operation Sadbhavana. Was there ever a thought that occurred to you that what if this goes wrong? What if it doesn't work out? And were there people that told you that this is not the way forward? Let's like you said, use hard power and give it all we've got, use all the power at our disposal.
I had no doubt in my mind. My history mind, my historical mind told me what the preamble of the UNESCO is. Since wars arise in the minds of men, it is in the minds of men that the defenses of peace must be confirmed. That is what Sadbhavana was about. It is in the minds of men that the defenses of peace should be constructed. Therefore, this whole aspect of conflict prevention, conflict resolution, was the central strategy of winning the mind first and not the heart first. The cliche is winning the hearts and mind. You can win the hearts and not win the minds. It's more important to win the mind and then the heart. And that is what history had taught me. Gun does not succeed at all. It's not a solution. It's not a long-term solution. Guns can cap a situation from getting out of hand. But all these are political systems, political issues there, and they will be solved politically and diplomatically. Military is not a solution. It's only a part of the solution. It prevents the situation from getting out of control. It creates the necessary conditions for people to come together and talk.
Right. And I think just the fact that you thought about, first of all, I think you have to understand the psychology of militancy, like you did. To understand that you have to win over the minds as well as the hearts. And was there? You probably didn't doubt yourself, but was there ever some sort of doubt when you started Operation Sadbhavana amongst your men or amongst the wider, military in general that maybe this is not the way forward and this is not the way to go?
Yeah, there were people who raised their eyebrows to say that when I say people, I include people out of uniform as well as people in uniform. That this is not our job. This is possibly the job of the district collector or the police or the local administration there. Our job is different. Their job is different over there. My philosophy in dealing with such conflicting views was, and still is, you are a citizen first and then a soldier, then a doctor, then an engineer, then a this and then a that. Every person today is a citizen first, then whatever profession you are doing there. That is also the constitutional position. That is also the moral position there. I am not the general first and citizen second. It can't be. I am there because of him, because of citizens. If the citizens were not there, there would be no need for me. So I think this was my messaging which I did. It was pretty effective, very effective, because in a short period of 9 months down the line, there was complete peace, and now 24 years after I left Ladakh, not a shot has been fired, not a bomb has exploded. Peace there, the spirit of peace is alive over there. So this concept of citizen first and everything else second was able to bridge these disparate views which people had. There were many other players who felt that their role was different, our role was different, everybody had separate roles to play. I said, no, we have to collaborate. So collaboration was the essence or the spirit of the strategy of man, that we have to collaborate. The army doesn't have an answer to it completely. Administration by itself does not have an answer. The people by themselves don't have an answer. We must all work together. Administration, military, and the people. When we work together, we will be able to solve all problems which appear to be unsolvable. So the strategy of collaboration and the strategy of being a citizen first and everything else, we were able to weld all these differences, rub them over, soften them up there, and achieve this.
General, this whole concept of visionary thinking, and I think you've done it multiple times, and I'd like to fast forward to the Indus Trust days. I remember when I was 5 or 6 years old, and my parents were searching for international schools in Bangalore. There was a certain school that we approached, and they said, he's not an NRI, you're not NRIs, you've lived in India all your life, so we can't take your kid. And that was the first international school. Bangalore didn't have international schools back then. And then we heard about...
Yeah, TSB was an international school. Had a 5 or 6 year lead over us. They came
right. But these were the replies that my parents got when I was wanting to join an international school. And then I heard about Indus. I still remember coming over to your room. It was not in Sarjapur then, and I think the school was just being built. And Domlur, and you asked me what do you like, and I said I like cars. And I think your car was parked outside. If I remember correctly, it was an Opel Astra, and please correct me if I'm wrong. It was, and I identified the car, and that was it. I stepped into Indus, and I didn't look back till I graduated. What was your thinking, building an international school when there was the whole concept of IB, the whole concept of international schools weren't popular back then, and you decided to, change the whole system. So what was your thought process behind that?
Well, again, I go back to my favorite subject of history. Yeah. Examine history with a microscope or even a telescope. You will notice that human beings by nature are not bad. They become bad because of the situation or circumstances they are placed in. And one of the circumstances and bad situations they are placed in is not only economics, is not only politics, is not only sociology, it is getting the wrong education. My success in Sadbhavana was primarily because of education. If people get the right education, it is not education per se. If the education is not right, education is very nasty. It can make you hostile. It can make you do wrong things. The right education. And the right education, as I said, I learned a lot from. There was a letter which was found in Auschwitz by a teacher. And the letter went something like this. I will just sort of, sum up what that letter was. I don't remember the exact words. But the letter basically said that what I have seen in Auschwitz and Dachau is something which I wish no human being should have seen. I saw educated people, doctors, engineers, nurses, killing babies, killing women, killing men, torturing them, experimenting on them. They are all educated people. And then finally he says is that reading, writing, and arithmetic makes sense only if education leads you to that. And because of my success in Sadbhavana, education as the vanguard, as the tipping point over there, I was convinced to myself that life must have a higher goal for me, must have a higher purpose. It cannot be to be a general and to be successful and to have medals and to have certificates. Life is much more than that. And I think, what can I do after the military? And the thing I decided to do was education, because I felt that if the education is right, we will make the world a better place. Make the world a better place to live in. And I picked international education. So I felt that international mindedness is what is required in a world that was globalized. In the early 25 or 26 years back, we were in a world that was globalized. Now, of course, we are re-looking at the whole concept of globalization. But in an interconnected world, it was very, very important to have a common educational philosophy. And I thought the International Baccalaureate had those qualities of holistic education there. And so I picked up on holistic education. And I also understood the power of technology. In my success, a lot of help came to me from MIT in the US. In fact, Nicholas Negroponte, co-founder of Media Lab, he had heard a lot about me, and he and his complete team, including his wife and kids, helped me a lot in bringing about internet as high as 15,000 feet in schools they set up over there. But education was the route to peace, right? Education. That is why I went for education.
Right. And General, I think the one thing that Indus does really well is you're always relooking education, right? Like you said, globalization may not exist, or it's changed, right? Things change, definitions change, and I think I was listening to one of your speeches where you said 65% of grade 1 students who come in today will do jobs that don't exist when they graduate 12 years down the line, right? What is the future of education in this VUCA world, like you mentioned? Where do you see it heading, and what's the next big thing in education?
Very good. Very good question. I spoke to you about the importance of right education. And how do you derive what is right education? How do you decide what is right education? Therefore, at Indus, we believe that the purpose of education is not to score high marks in examination and placement in prestigious colleges. That makes a nonsense of human intelligence. To think like that, particularly in today's world over there. We believe that the purpose of education is to prepare a child for a future we do not know. A future of probabilities. A future of unknown unknowns. A future of VUCA. And therefore, to implement this purpose of education, we need education to be holistic. And by holistic, I mean it should be interdisciplinary. We believe that STEAM is the curriculum of the future and mathematics is the foundation. And STEAM, I will add H to STEAM also, because humanities are equally important. So STEAM, H, it is science, technology, engineering, arts, mathematics and humanities, is the curriculum of the 21st century. And whether you are CBSE or ICSE or AP or ID or whatever it is over there. STEAM 8 is the core. And therefore, to achieve this core successfully, we need man 1, which is economic man. We need to make you man 2, which is moral man and innovation man. And we need to make you man 3, which is technology man. So the symbiosis, the fusion, the harmony of this game of knowledge required for the 21st century is the multiplying effect of creating children who got jobs, who got adequate money to flourish, who are creative, who have character, and use technology in an ethical manner. Because if we do that, at the end of the day, whole is going to be greater than the sum of its parts. So this is the purpose of education. And this is what we are pursuing vigorously, passionately.
If you look at India as a country, even today, marks are so important, right? You look at, the top prestigious universities in India, look at the IITs, IIMs, and there's so much pressure on students. Right? You don't get a 99%, you miss the cutoff, you don't get into, the prestigious universities. People think that, he or she hasn't made it and they're a failure. And because for me, studying in Indus, I learned the importance of being a risk taker. I learned the importance of being, showing empathy, and all of those characteristics. But as such, do you still feel that we in India as such has a long way to go in terms of the importance of marks, the importance of a 99% compared to the importance of real world skills, like you mentioned? Do you see that changing anytime soon?
I think in principle, a large number of Indians agree that education has to be holistic. But when it comes to practicing that idea over there, they are looking at the practical realities of job, of money, and markets and success, and they understand success, which is quite natural, and I don't blame them. But the winds of change are there. We have got well-known liberal colleges and universities like Ashoka, like O.P. Jindal, and Flame and Shia, and they are coming up now. So that consciousness, that awakening is happening, and I'm quite certain that even in IB, when we say about 10 years back or 15 years back, or when you graduated, I would say that 95 to 96% students all went abroad. A severe brain drain was happening over there. And now I would say, as I speak to you now, possibly about 15% of students are staying back in the country to pursue their studies over there. There are also issues like people want to join the medicine, engineering route over there, that is the IIT route over there. That they believe that rote learning is required, and that is why you have a plethora of these coaching institutes epitomized by the quota factory approach, because quota is the capital of where all this coaching is happening over there. I think you see the germs of a new awakening that is happening in education. That if children are conceptually clear, and this used to be there when I was a student, there was no coaching institutes at all. But our education was focused on conceptual understanding. So there are two routes to, for example, IIT. One is the quota factory approach, rote memorization. As a result of that, only about 26, maximum 30% people are employable in MNCs. in premier Indian companies. The rest are not. The other route, which to me is easier, long-lasting, is conceptual understanding. If kids understand the concept of what they are learning over there, they can crack any examination. And therefore, at the moment, as I speak, a lot of focus is being laid in the schools on conceptual understanding through collaborative learning between robots, now humanoids, students, and teachers. So it has started. It may take a little time, but we have become aware that this has to be done.
Right. You spoke about robots, and I know Indus also was one of the very early implementers of having a robot to assist a teacher, but not to take over the teacher's responsibility, because a teacher can never be replaced. But coming to now, you have AI, and now you have all of these new, innovations coming up, and a lot of people say that no one is safe from it. It's going to take over the role of a teacher. It's going to take over the role of what a future student may be. But what are your thoughts on what artificial intelligence can potentially do to education and to us overall? 5 or 10 years down the line.
I think artificial intelligence is going to make us more human. That's the way I look at it. Artificial intelligence today, I will reword it as machine thinking. You got human thinking, you got machine thinking. We believe that human thinking plus machine thinking equals to innovative thinking. You need machine thinking also. Let me give you the example of what Harvard Medical School is doing in metastatic breast cancer. Oncologists will analyze the biopsies and will give a percentage of, say, as an example, it could be 98%. AI, which has got a repository of millions and millions and millions and millions biopsies, will give 97.8. But when you put them together, you will get 99.9. It is this AI, if used in a collaborative manner, will make us better human beings, good human beings, successful human beings. But if we see AI as something across the fence over there, then it's going to be catastrophic. AI can't be reversed. It is there. It's a reality. Therefore, to improve our holistic personality there, we need to do collaborative thinking. And that is why the robots, or rather the humanoids in our schools, they learn along with the students and the teacher. So collaborative learning is not only focused on the student, the machine is also learning. That is what ML is about. The kids are also learning. They are learning from machines and they are learning from human beings as the teacher there. And the teacher is also learning. Teacher is no longer the sage on the stage. She is also learning. So all three are in a win-win situation. That is what knowledge is. And this is why there is going to be a shift from the traditional teacher to knowledge entrepreneurs. Today, the teaching fraternity in the world today is consuming knowledge. They are training kids how to consume knowledge. Teachers now must shift gears and create knowledge. They must be practitioners. I would like to see mathematics teacher. I want mathematics teachers to be mathematicians, physics teachers to be physicists, business teachers to be entrepreneurs. They need to have the domain knowledge and practical experience over there, and domain mastery and practical experience there to be practitioners. What is happening in the universities abroad, where professors are working in industry also, they come back to teaching. teaching, they go back to industry, they come back to teaching again there. So they're being a vast plethora of experience which they share with the kids over there. That is what I think the AI is doing, is going to facilitating collaborative learning for children, for teachers, and the future. So we should look at AI in a more positive manner. It is not to replace the teacher at all. It cannot replace the teacher, at least in the foreseeable future. I don't know what's going to happen after 50 years or 100 years. There's a lot of speculation people have there. But a large number of futurists today are talking about the age of singularity, an inflection point where machine thinking will surpass human thinking. And the language models are the first shots that have been fired. To put it very simply, today the language models possibly have an IQ around 103, 104, 105, which is average IQ there. And I expect that the language models in another 1 or 2 years, maybe 150, 120, it's above average. And there are only 16% people on the planet who have an above average intelligence. So machines have got that intelligence quotient there. I'm dismissing. Whether they should have or should not have, they should be regulated, not regulated there, that is a separate debate. But they have the capability, this is how you use it. You can use a knife to peel potatoes and chop onions. You can use a knife to dismember a person there. You can use atomic energy or nuclear energy for electricity, for isotope, for medicine, for peace. You can use it to kill people. It depends on the intent of the people, how you use it.
Right. That's a very interesting approach, and it's good to know that humans aren't going to be replaced, but rather humans plus artificial intelligence will actually empower the world, and depending on
human potential will go up.
Exactly.
Human potential will go up when I collaborate.
Yeah.
When I interact with you, that is what collaboration is. There is no single human being has got the answers to the problems of the world. There's no lone genius in the world today. Creativity is a team sport. Discovery, innovation is a team game. Even critical thinking is a team game. And therefore, when we collaborate, we will find the answer. When we don't find answer, when we don't collaborate, we go down the drain. So we need to understand that AI, artificial intelligence, is a key collaborative player in the game of others. Just a valuable.
Absolutely. General, I think it's been an absolute pleasure. Throughout this conversation, I've learned everything from your army days to the future of education to AI as a partner and how we can, build on creativity and just get better as humans. And I'm sure everyone who listens to this is just going to leave this conversation a lot more knowledgeable than when they entered. And I just like to thank you for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and thank you so much.
I must also close our podcast by complimenting you for the way you conducted the discussion.
Thank you, sir.
I'm always reminded of something which I keep saying very often, that you judge the quality of a person by the quality of questions she asks. And often when I do a very tricky interview or an interview for a very strategic post over there, I always ask the candidate over there, would you like to ask me any question? I rather seduce the person to ask me questions, because by that I can make out the depth and the quality of the person we are looking for. So you have passed that test.
It's an honor. It's a pleasure, and I attribute a lot of that to the Indus education and to the schooling that I got there. So thank you so much, General. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. All the best to you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you.